Let me start by asking you a question. Under what circumstances would you want to burn $1 million in a day? Well, a Chinese programmer burned $1.65 million by burned 603 Ethereum. So what on earth made him do something this insane? Is he crazy? This happened on February the 17th. A programmer by the name Hu Lezhi made waves on the Ethereum blockchain. He burned 603 ETH by sending them to a null address, permanently removing the funds from circulation. Along with it, he attached a chilling message in Chinese. He said, now a new form of crime has emerged. The victims are slowly deprived of their desires and senses until they become complete slaves to digital systems. If I end up reaching that final stage, I'll leave this world. This isn't some made-up internet rumor. You can look it up yourself. Blockchain transactions are transparent and public. The ETH he burned was real money. Then he went even further, donating 100 ETH to the Ethereum Foundation and releasing a long manifesto about computer-based brain weapons and the rise of digital slaves. And he didn't stop there. In about a week, he donated nearly 2,000 ETH to WikiLeaks and a Ukrainian address, totaling 5.35 million. That's another 5 million. And every time he donated, he attached a warning message about brain control weapons. So this programmer's dramatic protest, burning crypto and embedding his messages into the blockchain, was his way of forcing the world to listen to him. So what's the real truth behind all this? What kind of danger are the Chinese people actually facing? Is the Chinese government secretly running massive brain control projects? Chilling thoughts, right? Let's talk about this article that was published in 2012 by the Institute of Radiation and Radiation Medicine at the Academy of Military Medical Sciences of China. So the title of this paper is called The Establishment of a Consciousness Control Weapon and Behavioral Imaging Database. The paper talked about identifying target populations, creating behavioral databases, and categorizing control tools into offensive and defensive weapon libraries for military applications. But the question is, to create such databases, where are these experiments conducted and who are the subjects of the experiment, right? So who make up the databases? Well, the answer is the tens or the hundreds of millions of Chinese. Now let me talk about the history of CCP's brain control weapon. The CCP started its R&D on brain control weapons as early as the 1960s during the Cultural Revolution. A scientist by the name of Jiang Kanzhen, he conducted experiments or such experiments and co-authored a book called The Secrets of Bioelectromagnetic Waves, Field Conduction Discovery. His experiments primarily involved visual information transmission. So building on Jiang's experiments, the CCP developed devices capable of controlling specific human organs, mostly the brain, during the Cultural Revolution, from the late 1960s into the 1970s. The earliest known cases of such a victim, or the earliest known case of a victim of such experiments was one of China's most renowned physicists, Professor Ye Qi-sun, who was called the father of China's physicists. He has taught and nurtured dozens of leading Chinese physicists. In 1968, at the age of 70, he was arrested by the CCP in connection with an alleged Kuomintang spy group. He spent a year and a half in prison. After he was released from the prison, he began experiencing auditory hallucinations, believing that he was monitored by a radioactivity. So he said, every move I make gets a response. If I take a sip of tea, the radio says my drinking the tea was wrong. If I step outside, the radio orders me to go back in immediately. But people who were close to him thought he went crazy. His nephew felt sorry for him and said, you study physics, you know radio waves can't pass through walls. This isn't real, it's hallucination. But the scientist replied, "It is real. You are just deaf. You cannot hear it." Most people who knew the professor said that he was mentally ill. Experts now believe that the professor was targeted by brain control weapons using silent audio transmission and thought decoding. And there's another renowned Chinese who experienced this, and that's the famous poet Ai Qing. He was also a victim of brain control weapons. He wrote a book about his imprisonment during the Cultural Revolution, in which he described a strange and unexplained phenomenon of psychological manipulation. So, in his mind, he repeatedly saw a talking dog, a dog that talked, an entity that pressured him, threatened him to submit, and caused him to experience auditory hallucinations and visual distortions. What the poet experienced was a form of deep level thought decoding and visual image input directly into the brain, a type of brain control abuse. And this was the old technology from the 1970s. Experts say that China has already developed methods to transmit thoughts and psychological information using the principle of brainwave resonance. And this is commonly referred to as the artificial telepathy. And today, this kind of brain control technique has advanced to the point where operators tune microwave emissions to the resonance frequency of the targeted visual cortex or thalamus, enabling even more precise and targeted control. A long-term victim, Yao Duojie, he wrote a book called My Life is No Longer My Own. And he said that he had been selected as a live experimental subject for secret brain control weapons as early as 2007, when he worked as a manager of security at a five-star hotel. In recent years, a large number of people across China have come forward claiming to be victims of brain control weapons. And their reported symptoms show common patterns. So they hear voices in their minds, often 24 hours a day. And they're forcibly overwhelmed with negative emotions such as sadness, fear, and despair. They experience involuntary, repeated recollections of past mistakes, embarrassing moments, or sexual encounters, some real, some possibly fabricated. They're forced into negative artificial dream states, and they suffer unexplained physical symptoms such as muscle twitches, inability to concentrate, disorientation, tightness or pain in the chest, and also strange auditory sensations like buzzing, electric humming, or sounds. So now let me talk about the scale of the problem. So I think it was in 2001, Chen Yizhang, the president of the Chinese Neuroscience Society, revealed the secrets of CCP's brain control programs in an essay. So he said, over a decade ago, when this program had just begun implementation, I wrote an article opposing it. Every such technology represents a violation of privacy and freedom of will, because it can detect what you're thinking and doing at any moment. Your thoughts, memories, and behavior are no longer private. Two, it can interact with you directly through your brain, even extracting your memories and mimicking your voice in real-time dialogue. Three, it can forcibly implant dreams and control dream content. Four, it can make you smell artificially generated odors. Five, it can transmit its own intent into your mind during intense stimulation, controlling both your thoughts and behavior. Six, it can mentally and physically torture you using various methods. The real goal of the operator or operators is to monitor these people, not just to test the technology. Among those unknowingly monitored, the majority are males aged 15 to 55, with a higher concentration in urban populations. The technology is now spreading into rural areas. In terms of profession, the main targets include mid and low-level government officials and civil servants, mid and low-ranking military officers and regular soldiers, teachers and students at universities and high schools, intellectuals, and some ordinary citizens. The implementation process is extremely secretive. The technology is wireless, so there's no physical sensation. And yet their thoughts and memories are being fully intercepted and recorded. And it went on to say, in 1996, China became a member of the Human Brain Project, a global initiative involving 21 countries. Today, most of those countries possess this technology, but for various reasons, they are unwilling to admit it. If anyone brings it up, the topic is either suppressed or distorted because the use of such technology is deeply anti human and serves only those who control it. So the above is what Mr. Chen wrote. So in the past 20 years, the CCP has been pushing for the advancement of its brain control weapons. And in 2015, the China Brain Project was approved by the State Council and designated as a major scientific and technological project crucial to the country's future development. In 2016, brain science and brain-like research was included in China's 13th five-year plan as one of its key scientific innovation initiatives. In early 2017, it was listed as a pilot project under the National Science and Technology Innovation 2030 major projects, and planning for its implementation officially began. Regarding the military application of this field, the official news portal of the PLA published an article in February 2017 titled Control Over the Brain, the crown jewel of warfare supremacy. Human beings are the decisive factor in the outcome of war. If one can control the brain and seize control over it, the victory can be achieved without fighting. In June 2018, China Military Online published another article titled Future Wars May Begin in the Cerebral Cortex. Do you know about brain control weapons? And then on January 15th, 2019, the Chinese state media outlet Xinhua reprinted an article from China National Defense News titled The Winning Strategy of Brain Control Weapons. The article emphasized that the latest brain control technologies do not require implanting chips into the brain. Media such as electromagnetic waves, light, sound, and even smells can be used to carry out mind control. Here's an article from August 2020 called The Brain Control Weapons in the Cradle. It's on the PLA's website. So just imagine tens of thousands of PLA soldiers trained in weaponry, but stripped of emotions and feelings. They're all turned into mindless killing machines. What does that mean to the rest of the world? And imagine millions of or tens of millions of Chinese citizens willingly following party orders, donating money, sending their children to the front lines. Imagine thousands of foreign intelligence officers, generals, or even national leaders betraying their own countries because their minds are not their own. What I want to say is when technology develops without any moral constraint, when human morality declines faster than the speed of its technological advances, technologies become dangerous. They can eventually destroy us or turn us all into digital slaves.